This podcast is sponsored by Green Man Gaming. Green Man Gaming is a digital video game marketplace featuring thousands of titles ranging from new AAA releases to up-and-coming indie games. Purchase titles for several platforms, including Steam, Origin, Xbox One, PS4, and more. Throughout January, you can support this podcast by using offer code EverythingNoob20OF to save 20% off select PC titles on greenmangaming.com. That's offer code EverythingNoob20OF and save 20%. Some exclusions apply. See everythingnoob.com for details.
Straight from the realm of all things gaming, Everything Noob starts now.
Episode 115, the Everything Noob podcast. Thank you for joining us this evening. I am Vortak, inventor of the Let's Play. And joining me this evening,
Dreadlow. I've been playing some Hearthstone and some streaming on Hitbox.
Nice.
It's been a lot of fun.
I was watching you play Hearthstone. You kicked some ass and took some names.
Oh, yeah. I had to put those up on YouTube.
Yeah.
That was cool. It was a lot of fun.
We always have our YouTube channels linked on everythingnoob.com, and be sure to check out the show notes for all of that. Thank you for joining us on the Everything Noob podcast, though. Every week we have a theme for the show, and this week's theme is gaming reviews. We're not really reviewing games, we're reviewing reviews. So please join us on this wild ride. This is coming up because of a story that Joystick posted on their website recently, where they talked about how they are no longer going to score reviews, and they're known for reviewing games. That's like it's the third thing on their list, right next to news and games, is reviews. So they've kind of changed the way they're doing things, and they explained why, and I thought that's pretty cool. I've been noticing a lot of trends with game reviews myself, so I figured this would be a fun little topic. But before we get into it, I want to mention real quick, before the show tonight, live on Everything Noob's Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/enoobs, we did a quick video. I actually showed an episode of my Let's Play, my RimWorld Let's Play, which isn't out yet on my YouTube channel. So if you're someone who watches myself or perhaps Jemmy or Dreadlow on their channels, if and when they ever start uploading, we may be playing some exclusive content before the podcast from now on. So be sure to join us early. We broadcast live every Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/enoobs. So there you go. On to gaming reviews. I actually noticed something on Steam that kind of caught my attention, and I wanted to know what your take on it was, Dreadlow, because it kind of, I see why it is this way, but I kind of feel like it's a little bit, it's something that could be addressed and improved on. But basically, if you go on Steam, you have your game, right? Whatever game you're looking at, and then you want to see what people think of it. So you scroll down, and there's all the reviews. Now, the reviews are generally, I think the first thing you see is the newest review, but I don't really know. Sometimes it switches.
I've gone to, let's see, which is the one I saw Weem's review, and his is at the top of the list, and it's been there since. It's been there for a month or so, a couple months, and it's still the top review. So I'm guessing that it causes the reviews to stay on the top. It must. I
think the way they do it, and this is just me predicting from what I've seen, because I've seen that too. I've posted reviews, and sometimes, like the first time I look at the video again the game again after my review is posted, my review's right on top, and then it drops a little bit. But if enough people hit the button to like say yes, this review was helpful, or no, it was not, it moves up and down that list.
Right.
So I think what they do is when the new review is posted, it gets a little bit of time on top. People get to read it and then vote it up or down. And then from there, it kind of falls back into the herd of reviews. I think maybe that's how they do it. So
yeah, but you had mentioned though that if somebody replies to your review and then does the thumbs up for your review, right? Basically saying that your review is good and it's helpful. It doesn't change the rating of the actual game.
No. So if you go and check out the game, any game on Steam, to the right of the little screen there with the preview video, it says this game is reviewed overall, or it says like mostly negative reviews or mostly positive reviews or mixed reviews. And that right there can just tell you at a glance what people think of the game without reading a single review. And what I noticed was that my review was getting some like mixed reviews. People review reviews, which is, I think, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I mean, I'm seeing
It is
this on
because
things,
it weeds out all the. It does weed out all the
spam,
all
and
the
crap.
trolls,
Yeah.
and the people who maybe hate the developers, so they're gonna troll the the review section.
Yeah.
So
or people
I
who
guess
are
that
good
helps that
friends
way.
with the developer and just posting like a 2-word like this game is great.
So
review.
maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't want a bunch of people replying to you because they hate you. Say like they hate you, which
Yeah.
we know everybody hates you.
Everybody.
But say like they hate you and they go, this guy, like, okay, Total Biscuit, everybody, there's a lot of people that he's got a lot of hate people and he's got a lot of like people, and he does reviews. Okay, so he does a review and it's up on the top of the list, and then they go to reply it and they put thumbs down on his review, okay, which could cause a lot of weirdness anyway. But if it adjusted the score of the actual game itself, it wouldn't be really a fair review, because they're not hating on the game as much as they're hating on the person reviewing it.
Yeah. There's like all
So-
these pluses and minuses to what I was thinking of what they should do. And originally when I saw this, I'm like, okay, here's the thing. Let's say someone reviews the game and says all these awesome things about it. And this is I'm using a game I saw as an example. I literally saw these types of numbers. So we have, let's say there are 20 reviews. I think the game I saw were like 25 reviews. So let's say there's 25 reviews, and 15 of them are positive and the rest of them are negative. So the game has like kind of mixed reviews. It's kind of annoying when the first review I see is this person who's saying all these really super positive things about it, and yet, what was the percentage? If I can remember the ratio, it was like, I don't know, we'll say 2 out of 10 people found this review helpful. Meaning that a bunch of people rated the review and said this review is not helpful. But the number of people who rated it was like in the hundreds. That many people thought this person's review sucked, yet it was still on top of the list.
Yeah, I see what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Ignore all my getting around math for a second and just follow me here.
Ignore his calculus.
Yes. All I'm saying is if a review is that like controversial, why does it still get to determine the game's score? I mean, if we're going to rate reviews, why not have there be a consequence? So one thing I thought about all this, I'm like, well, obviously it could just be a troll fest, and people are just, like you said, hating on the person who wrote the review. Or let's say a very, very negative review is found helpful. Another thing I proposed was, let's say a negative review gets 9 out of 10 people find a negative review helpful and 100 people voted on it. That would tell me that like 90 people would have given a negative review, right? Like at a glance.
Yeah.
That's kinda
true.
how I
'Cause
see that.
They don't want to do their own review. They just want to hit buttons, like,
Yeah.
okay, I like this game.
Exactly.
Or I like this review. This review is good. I like it. And instead of having to go through and write a review, they'd rather do it that way. They let a reviewer speak for them, basically.
Yeah, but what I didn't realize is that you can rate a review without actually playing the game. You can't review a game unless you play it. That's the big, big difference here. So I'm going to clarify that. But I
okay.
still
As far
think,
as okay.
yeah, I still think that if a review is going to get that many like hits on it in either direction, it should be scored a little bit differently. Like, wow, this negative review is really hitting home with people, which means they're not going to buy our game. That indicates a negative review. And then I thought, well, a developer can find a negative review helpful and vote it up. You know what I mean? A developer sees a negative review and goes, oh, look, criticism that I can actually build off of. That's helpful. So it's really strange. So I don't know. One legitimate thing I think could fix that whole system for me is if Steam would add in, like, it would hide all that from us. Kind of. Let's say a review is just getting bashed left and right. Someone posted a bunch of positive stuff and everyone's just all over it. Why not just hide the portion of that review that says do people like or not like it? Because obviously it doesn't it's not doing anyone any good if that person's hated, like you said.
Right. If somebody really doesn't like the game and they don't like the review that this guy's giving, let them leave a comment, let them leave a reply. But why should they have the option of
I guess
voting
why
on it? Is that
why
what
are
you're
we
saying?
scoring reviews is kind of
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I see what you mean.
Ultimately,
Well,
I don't think it's necessary, even though there are some positives to it. It just kind of makes things more confusing. Like I'm spending, I don't know, 20 minutes reading one review and what people thought of that review, when really I could have just spent $5 in the stupid game and played it for myself.
yeah, true.
That's what this kind of boils down to.
Yeah. I one of the other things one of the things from YouTube, it starts off from YouTube and they have the little 5-star review. You know how
I
they have
remember
those 5
that.
stars? And I understand why they kind of got rid of that system. And a lot of companies that did reviews got rid of that system. And we're going to talk about one right now. But I kind of like that. I think they could have upgraded it some way. Like, in other words, don't give it any stars until at least 25 people actually, liked or disliked it. And then once those 25 people, then it does like a mathematical algorithm and says, okay, this gets 3 stars. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's based on an average rather than how many stars was clicked. Because you could go, I don't know if there's any sites that still have this. I guess Amazon does. You can click on somebody's book or whatever they're selling on Amazon, and you click 5 stars, and it'll give them 5 stars. So then people go in there and they can say, "Oh, this is a 5-star review," but it was only one review.
Yeah, that's another flaw I wanted to talk about, because
Yeah, and
it's
so
just like that on Steam. If only one person reviews it, Steam has no choice but to say this is overwhelmingly positive reviews.
yeah, and I think there should be like a 25. There has to be at least 25 reviews for them to do any calculations. That
Maybe
might
that's
be
how
the
it
best
is,
fix.
but I've seen games with only a couple reviews, and Steam's already giving it an overall score. And I think if you're sitting there like bashing your head up against the desk, oh, he doesn't understand why we do things the way we do. I'm just gonna we'll transition here in a second to this joystick, the way they're handling it and their theory
Yeah.
on it, because it does make a whole lot more sense than what I'm talking about. I'm just kind of angry at how much time I spent looking at reviews the other day. I'm like, why is this system in place? This is just too much. Not only can you rate a review, yes, this was helpful, no, it was not. You can leave a comment
reply
on a review.
And you can actually rate that reply to that reply.
Oh my god! I didn't even look that far.
I'm sure you can. Wouldn't that be crazy?
I don't know if it goes that far. but
Surprised
that would
nobody's
be-
taken advantage of that and just went wild with it. It's like, okay, you've heard of Web of Trust, haven't you? It's
Yeah.
called WAT. It's like a thing that you put on your browser that will actually block bad websites or give you reviews on certain websites. Kind of helps you deter viruses. Well, they got that little 5-star kind of system in a way. And I ran across a website of somebody that I know, and I know it's a good website. And I went to it, and WAT blocked it. And I said, "What?" So I said, "Okay, I'm going to go to it anyway." I went to it, and there's nothing wrong with it. So I went to Watt to find out their review system. Was only one person that reviewed it and put bad on his to review it, and it gave it a bad rating, a full-on bad rating. So just that one review. And see, that's the thing that that
it's
needs
automation,
to be fixed.
really, like the automated
Yeah.
review system. And
So everybody who has Watt, when they come to that website, it's going to be blocked.
yeah,
Just because of that one review.
that one guy gets
The
to screw
one
up.
guy,
It's like
yep.
driving on a 1-lane highway, and one person decides the speed limit for everyone else, and they decide they want to go slow that day. Well, so Joystick is no longer scoring reviews. And they have some really, really good points as to why. We're going to link this in the show notes. And this is really what got me thinking about this whole thing and overthinking it, as I'm frustrating Excel in chat right now. He's like, "You're mad because you were overthinking it?" Yes. Yes, I am. That's what I do. So Joystick has decided they're not going to score reviews anymore. They're not going to use their star system that they used, I think, 5 stars, and they had to add like half stars because of things like Metacritic and stuff like that. It's crazy, but the way they've kind of laid this out is they said, all right, let's just say in today's gaming, we have this problem where games get released and then you have like the day one patch, which has to fix a bunch of things. So you get the day one patch, which may have screwed something up because the game was out for a bit before it got the patch. People started reviewing it, and the patch fixed whatever they were angry about. This happens constantly, though, not just day one, but let's say a week in, and you have a game that was supposed to be great, but now it's getting these horrible reviews because it's like a game-breaking bug. Once that game-breaking bug is patched, why aren't we retracting what we said about that was so negative and posting a legitimate review?
Well, it's funny because the Steam reviews, if you look in there, some people do that. It's up to the person that actually reviewed it to go back and update or edit their review.
Yeah.
I don't know if they could change their thumbs up or thumbs down, but they can edit their actual review and say, I made this review before such and such. I retract, what I said, and the game is actually very good or whatever. So I don't know if they can actually change their thumbs up or thumbs down to a thumbs up. I don't know.
I mean, we're talking like review websites now. For when you don't want to when you don't want to sift through all the Steam reviews that may or may not be great, these websites review them for you. So you pick a trusted website or two to follow, and you're like, oh, they reviewed the new Assassin's Creed game. What did they think of it? And we all know the new Assassin's Creed game had all kinds of problems when it first came out. So that affected the scores. And now overall the game was rated, probably pretty poor. And the question is, did these people go back and change it? And I'm sure some of them did, but a lot of them probably just moved on to the next game. And I'm saying this in speculation because I never bought the new Assassin's Creed. I did get it as a gift, but I need to beat the other one first. But I never looked up reviews because I was too busy playing Black Flag. So, sue me. But point is, you kind of get it. You can't rate a game these days based on like the first day it comes out. There's just too much that goes wrong, or like Diablo 3 was another example they brought up. The game is completely changed from when it first came out. They've changed so much about it that it changed the score completely.
Wow.
I mean, you have to re-review a game in order to
that's crazy,
stay accurate to that.
Well, that's the point, though. I mean, I feel like reviews also devs look at the reviews too, because obviously they want the review to be high, and if they see a countless amount of people saying this needs to be fixed, and they fix it, then their reviews should change. Like if they make it better, then the reviews should be better. They should get a higher review because they fixed their game, and that's good because. I mean, it's not fair to somebody, and that's another thing too. I mean, it allows devs to know what we want or what we like and what we don't like about their game, and it gives them the opportunity to change it. I think reviewing is very important, not just for us, the consumer, but also for the developer, because then he can see what people are liking and what they're not. I learned this with Game Dev Tycoon, by the way, but. But yeah, I mean, and here Joystick is kind of like saying, we're not going to review the same way we used to review. We're going to do it this way. And so I guess what they're going to do is they're going to have, at the end of their written review, they're going to have, in other words...
Your at a glance.
Yeah.
So, and what's cool about their at a glance is that they can very easily now go in and change some of that. So, for example... for the new Saints Row game, their at a glance says a few things like online co-op, yes, odd visual glitches here and there. But let's say they release some improvements. Now Joystick can easily go back into their in other words section of the review where it's at a glance and change odd visual glitches to none. They were fixed. Something like that.
Right.
And keep it
instead of giving it like a 5-star rating and then have to lower up or why is it happening? Now they give us an idea of why.
And this is good because there's a lot of people out there. I know this because I used to be one of these people. If you see a product, let's say a video game, and you're like, ooh, that game is $60. I wonder if it's worth a damn. how often do you actually take the time to read what these people say? Or do you just skim that part and look at their at a glance? How many stars did this asshole give it? Okay, 3. Great. Move on. Oh, this one got 4. This one gave it 5, 5, 5, 5, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay, yeah,
And some people
5
do
stars
that.
for me.
Some people do that, but I tend to go a little further. I'm one of those ones that do.
Yeah.
What I'll do is if I see a rating, what is that, the meta rating or whatever on Steam, where it's got like 71 out of 100 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, so why is this game so good? I'll look at the actual written reviews that people have done. Then I'll go to YouTube. I mean, I go through, seriously, I spend
You're
2 or 3
careful with
hours.
your money, is what
Right.
you're saying.
If I'm going to
And that's what
spend
I'm
money
getting
on
at.
a game, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I want to know. I want to see people playing it. I want to know what they think, and I want to know why it got the rating that it got. You know, so.
Yeah. And
But
this is
like, I'll give you an example. H1Z1. If you go to Steam right now, they are overwhelmed with negative reviews,
because of the server issues.
and that was all it was. And now everything's fixed, and everybody's happy, and everybody's going wild, but they still got that negative reviews. But although it does have a higher the meta rating, the one that's the /100,
Yeah.
it seems to have a higher rating there. I don't know if that's separate from the whole thing. But.
The way that is too is the people who review it originally need to go back and change their own review, which is an option. You can do that, absolutely.
Yeah.
But overall, now Steam's review reflects what those people, the lazy people who only review games one time and move on, have to say. So theirs are still in there screwing it all up. So you want to check Steam reviews, but you also do want to check reviews from big websites like Joystick. And Joystick adding this TLDR section at the bottom, it's the perfect way to do it because you get to satisfy everybody. The people who want to read fully what they think of it get that part first, and the people who just want their at a glance still get enough information to make an informed decision. Which, I mean,
Exactly,
when you're
rather than
spending
just
60
stars.
bucks, yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to just go buy it. Okay, it's a 5-star rating. I'll buy it. And then you buy it and you go, oh, this is crap. It's got all kinds of problems. How come it got a 5-star rating?
Yeah.
Well, they were rating the graphics and, whatever,
And
whatnot.
I guess Excel's saying it's not just server issues. I don't have H1Z1. I haven't really. I wait for games like that because one, I have too many games to play, and 2, I just don't need another zombie game right now. But
Yeah,
anyway,
there's a lot of pay-to-win drama with that game, too.
Yeah.
So, but it's not... That could be an argument. That could be a whole new show because
Exactly.
it's a
We've
valid
talked about
argument.
that.
Yeah.
Overall, though, let's say it was just server issues. Those will get resolved. I mean, look how bad SimCity got
the
bashed
Sims.
when it first came
SimCity.
out.
Oh my gosh, it was like overwhelmed with just. I mean, we did a
The
whole show on it.
The whole internet was freaking out because there hasn't been a new SimCity game in years.
I mean,
and it
even
comes out
Obama, put out a. No, I was kidding.
oh my God. You know what I mean, though? It's crazy,
Yeah.
and it's not fair because that opinion is what sticks. And
Yes.
maybe what Joystick is doing isn't going to help because maybe the first day they still have to give it, they have to rate it as is. Even if they say, don't worry, these glitches will be fixed. I mean, you're going to, maybe
Sometimes
you'll move on.
Sometimes it leaves it up in the air too.
Yeah.
Now it's up to you. So like you're reading the information, you go, okay, this, okay. What does everybody think of it? What what do you think of it? I mean, what is your final analysis? I don't want to have to.
You got to give a final analysis here, and I think that's what Joystick's doing, and it's good. I think now today reviews are more important than ever, but we really do need to be doing more stuff like this that Joystick is doing, and taking it and kind of reevaluating the way we review things, because gaming has changed a lot. No longer do you have a game that comes out and that's it. Like a billion game testers tested it to make sure it worked right.
Yeah, it's
out
not
of the box, no problems, no glitches, no bugs, and even then, someone slipped through. But for the most part, you would get a playable game every time. And these days, we are the game testers, which is
basically, especially when they come early access or whatever. Yeah, we're testing it.
I mean, I'm kind of glad that you can get early access and stuff, but you're subject to review. I think that's why a great example, RimWorld, which was the game that was shown just before this podcast. The developer of RimWorld is completely greenlit, but does not want to go on Steam yet because the game is not finished. He does
And
not.
see, he wants
a full game before he goes on Steam, which is
which
awesome.
I think it is a full game. But anyway,
Yeah, I think it is too. He's done a great job, but there are bugs that appear from time to time, and you play that game and you can clearly start talking about what can be added. And once you do that, you have people who review the game and they might give it a negative because they think something should be in it that's not there. And that's a risk he just does not want to take. He wants his game to be rated on its 100% completed version. So you can use the forum to give him suggestions, and you can use his website to purchase. And that's just how it's going to be. And I guess he feels like he has enough money to, develop this game without needing Steam's, early access dollars as well. Which is something that developers shouldn't use anyway, but that's neither here nor there. So, I mean, it's just a lot of developers don't think like RimWorld developers do, and reviews are very important, for their protection or their demise.
It's really interesting how we've talked about how RimWorld and Prison Architect are similar in the way they look. And it's interesting how the developers of you almost think that this is the same developers because they're actually following in the same footsteps. They're doing exactly the same way the Prison Architect developers are doing with their game. They're putting out updates all the time. They're, it's just that's the way it should be done. I'm hoping that will cause people to give higher reviews on games with early access because they're constantly seeing updates. They'll be hesitant to put something bad about it. Like I saw a review once about a game where the developer did nothing for 2 months with the game, yet there was bugs and problems with the game. They never even posted out a sorry. So what happened? They got a bunch of bad reviews on the game.
Yeah, people are like, don't waste your money because this developer abandoned the project, even if they're just, maybe they had some kind of life issue pop up, and now they come back to their hobby or their career and everything's in shambles because the internet got mad at them.
Yeah, exactly.
And things move so fast these days, and there's so many games to play that it's very easy to kind of read a review and then be like, not for me, and move on and never think about it again. Never think twice about these awesome games that could one day become like the best thing you've ever played, but you just blew it off because a few bad reviews.
Right.
So I think maybe the real culprit isn't reviews, but early access, which is, again, a whole nother show. But really, when we're releasing our games early and then leaving them subject to review, what do you expect is going to happen? Even if you say at the beginning, your opening screen could be, hey, this game's early access, and there's going to be problems, so chill the F out. And people are still going to bitch because that's just how the internet is.
Well, like you said, RimWorld developers decided, even though they're greenlit, not to put it out yet. And maybe that's what developers need to do: just hold out a little bit longer. When they're getting close to releasing it, even on beta or whatever, I'm not even sure what early access is anymore. Is it alpha, beta? Is it gamma? Is it
early access means beta or even earlier. So.
Yeah,
and assuming beta is the last stage of development, as long as it's still being developed.
Right.
That is
but it should be a fairly decent. It should be a playable game. At a point, at that point, once they get it on Steam, it should be playable, at least playable, and let everybody know what the bugs are. And they should be updating that game consistently, at least once a month, if not more. It depends on how bad the game is. I mean, if the game is pretty far advanced in development, they can almost, just do one a month. And I know Prison Architect does that because the game is fully playable. Because we know what it's like when they keep updating like every week. We've dealt with that with Minecraft. So, but I mean, that's what's going to get good reviews. Even at early access, if they're constantly updating the game and they're in contact with the community and they let them know, hey, this is the problem, we're fixing it, whatever. They're going to get good reviews regardless. I've seen that. I've seen where a game has been just god-awful, but they put out updates every so often, and they also make sure they, let the community know, and everybody gives it good positive reviews. And that's because they know that something's coming, and it's going to be good.
Yeah. Well, On that note, I'm going to read this thing real quick, and we will jump back into the discussion. So, if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you purchase games from time to time, and we would like to save you a few bucks next time you do that. Thanks to our new sponsor, Green Man Gaming, throughout January, you can save 20% on select PC downloads by using the code EverythingNoob20OF on your next purchase. One game to consider might be Grand Theft Auto 5, which just went into pre-purchasing on Steam and Green Man Gaming. It's coming to PC very soon, and you can pre-purchase it on greenmangaming.com and save 20% by using the offer code, once again, EverythingNoob20OF. You can also buy other games with this as well, PC titles, but some exclusions may apply. See everythingnoob.com for details and check out our show notes for the link and the code. Thank you for Green Man Gaming for your support. Our first sponsor.
Yep.
Definitely appreciate it. But yes, we're talking gaming reviews. That is the theme of the show tonight. And good old ad reads, great for derailing the conversation. I was just thinking, though, like, early access maybe we've had this discussion before, but should we be reviewing early access? I think maybe the conclusion to this discussion was early access games should have some time where they're free of reviews until they get, their footing. And then
like the review section be locked, and maybe only have curators. The curators they got on Steam do the reviews for those.
That would be cool, and maybe that's what they're doing with Steam curators. Maybe that's
because I think that if they locked the reviews and leave it specifically for curators, because they're well known, not just well known because they got a lot of followers, but because they actually do give good advice, they do actually review the game correctly, and they do it, efficiently. So allow them to actually write reviews.
Because I see
people like Toto Biscuit.
Steam's trying to become a social network all on its own, and they want it to be 100% standalone. You're all in one shop for buying the games, seeing the reviews, all that stuff. And that's great, but it's still important to have like outside sources, and maybe that's what the curator page is supposed to do. Because when it came out, a lot of people were like, why? And it just seemed like another popularity contest. But you follow your favorite curators. If they recommend a game, since they're your favorites, you generally trust them on their recommendation, and they can leave, a little bit of advice about the game. Hey, it's still early access, and I still noticed there was some screen tearing on these parts because, it needs blah, 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 whatever. And you just take their word for it, and perhaps maybe this whole curator thing is a step in that direction. Maybe we'll start seeing reviews. We're already seeing, like, curators you follow recommend this game, or I don't know, it adds curators in there, for the game you're checking out.
Right. I really don't think it's, yeah, sure, they're going to get a lot more viewers and a lot more followers, a lot more this, a lot more that, but they're already there. It's not like they're trying to gain more. They're just trying to help us out. So there's a lot of people who kind of look down upon the curator thing, but I look at it as a benefit, because now I'm getting real reviews. I'm not getting just a bunch of people that play games, and I do value those as well, especially when they make clear, good reviews. They got enough information there for me to get information from. But the whole curator thing, I think, allows us to, somebody that's already trusted, somebody that's already known in the community, somebody that does reviews on almost a daily basis and knows what they're talking about. I think I like the curator thing. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
So
I just think maybe these are more things that should account for that at a glance problem that I think a lot of people might have, and I look at it too, that the overall review, before I read any of the reviews, I look and see, what do people think of this game before I scroll down and read. If it says positive or overwhelmingly positive, I'm like, ooh, now I know I don't even need to read them. Overwhelmingly positive tells me like 9 out of 10 of those reviews are get this game. But when it says mixed or something, then I'm inclined to go kind of read. And that's
and it's in red too, and it says mixed, and you're going, what?
Oh boy, what am I getting into?
Boy.
And I want to see different things. Like, maybe if they took, you know how the curators have their own little symbols, like their logo? Maybe if their logo had like a little thumbs up or down, just right over the face, like the following curators, this is what they think. Boom, 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 boom. You know, and you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
ooh, you
So
know,
it's like a quick at a glance look. Yeah.
all my favorite curators love this game, but yet it has mixed reviews. What's going on here? And just all these things kind of help you consider for the person like me who's just going to overthink it anyway. Overthink it, overdo it. I mean, you're having someone spend their money on a video game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sometimes a lot too. There's a couple games out there I think are a little on the high side price wise. I'm noticing that a lot of your indie devs are starting to up their prices on their content they're coming out with. Like when they start making a game, that now it's a higher price now. It's not.
That
It used to
alone.
be. Yeah.
That alone could
It used-
affect the review.
Yeah.
Just like,
'Cause
hey, I paid 20.
they
I was
think-
going to pay $20, but now you've raised the price to 30. WTF?
Yeah, or not even raised. Just when they first release a game, it's just so high. It's as much as a AAA title, you know, and you're like, why? You know, that's the whole. That was the whole. I mean, that was the whole pull towards the indie scene too. Was that they don't have a big studio or they have to hire 2,000 people to work on a game. It's just one or two people that are working on this. Why do they need $60 for an indie title, and it's not even complete. It's an early access. You know, I mean, you get stuff like that, and that's what we're getting right now. And I'm hoping that they're trying something, and it's going to fail because, that's what draw me to indie games was not only were they good quality, they were also close to the community, and they were lower price. That was what pulled me into it. So,
a lot of devs though they feel like, why aren't they entitled to a little bit more money than that? Like, and I can kind of see that, especially with games. I know the one you're thinking of, Life is Feudal, which started out at like $40 for an early access title, and everyone was kind of like, sticker shocked. But if you play that game, you can kind of see why they want that much money. They're putting in everything, and it's a completely fair asking price on their part. If I was that developer, but like you said, you can't do that. It's still under development, and people have this idea in their heads about indie games where they're supposed to be cheap. But I kind of think that's...
I don't mean cheap, but I mean I think it's
cheaper than a AAA
I think
title.
When they come out with the multiplayer, the online Life is Feudal, which you're supposed to be able to can be considered. I don't know what you're allowed to. They give you access to it or something, full access to it. When that comes out, if you pay the $30 and you get the Life is Feudal your own, or whatever, all that good stuff, and that's all the $30, and that's great. But we're helping you test the game. The game isn't. There's a lot of bugs in the game. I saw people with half worlds disappeared. I mean, there's just a lot of things that isn't worth $30 to me yet.
Is it 30 or 40?
Maybe. It's 30 now, I think.
Oh.
I think so.
Maybe they lowered it because that was a big...
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's just maybe down the line when it's a complete game and you've got the multiplayer out and everything's all...
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the
agree.
multiplayer because there's multiplayer in that game, but I'm talking about they're actually
MMO
coming out with an
versions.
online, MMO version of it. And... when they come out with all that, then maybe it's worth the $30. You know what I mean? But right now, it's just early access. Let some people get in there to test the game out, give you some good reviews. Let us suffer through the the problems that we're going to encounter in the game. And that's
Yeah, I like that there's early access, and I like that it exists. But there's a real controversy and a real argument to be had for the fact that there are people who used to get paid to do this. Their game testers existed and may still exist to some extent, but I'm sure their line of work has taken a huge hit from this because now not only do they not have to pay staff to test their games, they get money for having people test their games. And the developers who abuse that are the ones who I hope really suffer some consequences for it because like gamers won't stand for that. Won't stand for getting screwed over. If they're going to get screwed over, they're going to make sure their peers don't. Or, if they can, they're going to try to get their money back. And
I mean, in the beginning, that's what indie developers did. They did what Notch did. They started out where the game was free at first. Then he tacked on a few dollars. Then he went up. And as the game progressed in development, the price went up.
yeah.
And that's the way it should be, I think. I don't know.
A great example of
He
another
still
game.
made $2.5 million. Doesn't matter what he did,
Another game that people feel burned by, and this isn't the first time I've seen this. Someone in chat, Fately, is that? I'm sure I'm messing your name up, but
Fatal.
Fatal. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, but there's a play on words there. It's like a fae, like a fairy fae, and fatal.
Everyone's better at this than I am. I can't stand reading Twitch names. I feel I even bumped up to the $99 level. I shouldn't have. I feel somewhat burned from backing Tug. I don't know if those two things are related, but I noticed the comment. I feel somewhat burned from my backing Tug, and that is that is totally legit. Tug is a game I bought into. I think at $15-$20, and it has not delivered on what it's promised at all. It promised back in October multiplayer. And I was doing a Let's Play on it at the time, and people were really enjoying it. And I said, hey, don't worry, after October, we're going to have multiplayer, and I'm planning a dual series with a couple people. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I ended the series after October saying, well, we didn't get multiplayer just yet. They're still working on it. Once that comes out, I might revisit Tug, but for now we're going to move on. And I did. And as far as I know, multiplayer is still not in the game after months.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. That sucks because Tug is one that people have been looking forward to. Especially, we did a whole podcast on the fact that the Yogs cast ended up pulling their game Yog Ventures, and one of the games they gave out to all the people who were burned by them was Tug. And you would think this would give them a chunk of change because I doubt they just gave a bunch of copies to them. I'm sure that Yogscast had to pay for those, to maybe at a discount price. Who knows? But they've gotten a lot of attention. Even if you didn't get a free copy of it, you might have bought it because your favorite YouTubers have been playing it. And yet they still had to lay off half of their staff working on the game. While I was doing my Let's Play, they talked about that. And it's just, that's a shame. That sucks.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Everything on your side, and yet you still can't deliver.
The game is excellent. It's really, I mean, they still don't even have any mobs in there. They have animals and stuff, but they don't have mobs yet, and so. Yeah, it's just one of those things, man. That's why it's so hard to trust an early access, and you don't want to dish out $30 for a game that's early access that they just stop doing things with.
Exactly.
And that's my fear. That's why an early access game shouldn't be that expensive. I mean, great example. I got the free version. I actually supported Tug. I was on their Kickstarter. And I supported their game, but at the same time, I got a free copy from Yogs Ventures because I, supported Yog Ventures as well. And so look what happened. I got burnt from Yogs Ventures. Luckily, I got Tug, but now I got another Tug. So I got a Steam key that I might be giving away.
Yeah, if you want to play an unfinished game, Treadlow has a copy.
But hopefully they'll get on it. I was hoping it was just because of vacation, with the holidays and.
I can't reply in chat anymore. By the way, I lost my login. I think Twitch 7's some problems. But anyway, if you have if you were saying stuff about Tug and we missed it, feel free to throw that in there again. But yeah, Fatal says emotional investment. I was hoping for when I came back to Worm Online. Lesson learned. Worm Online's a whole nother one.
Just Full Hammer says. I got a Tug key from Weem, and I still feel burned. Wow.
It can be an emotional investment. It absolutely can, because when you look at some of the roadmaps for these games coming out, you get really excited. You're like, oh my god, like this game is supposed to be really awesome. And if they follow through with all these promises, it will be up there with the likes of Minecraft and all the other great indie games that have come out recently. And then they fall short, and it's just like an utter disappointment. Like, what happened? What's the difference between 6 months ago and now? Like, did you run out of money and now you have to go back to your day job? Because, I mean, I understand when you back a Kickstarter, really what you're doing is funding their ability to quit their job. Because
basically,
once you have everything to create a game, it doesn't cost anything. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to keep buying software. As far as I know, I'm not a developer, but
yeah, like if I invest, say, a couple $100,000 into a business, it's going to be my job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to put my whole life's work into it and try to make it successful because I just quit my job. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's the whole point of the Kickstarter thing is you get the money that's going to replace what you may be losing by putting your full time into developing your game.
So yeah, you can still eat and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
If that
that's
money
what that
runs
pays for.
out,
yeah.
If you have a miscalculation, should you be condemned for that? Like going back to your day job and disappointing everyone who backed your project. Is it better to ask for more money and then produce a game, or to say sorry and try to do the right thing and not ask for more money and just fade into the shadows? Which one is more wrong?
I'm wondering.
Really?
I'm wondering if these are just new young developers and they see all this money coming in and they go, "Let's just throw a big party in celebration of all this money we're making," and then realize,
we spent half
we don't
our
have
budget
money
on a keg.
We can't pay our rent. You know what I mean? So I hope not. That would be sad.
That could absolutely happen, and I'm sure it's happened before. Like people, they have a little celebration, and then they hit the ground running on development. But over time,
they get bad reviews, and people stop buying their game for a while, and they start losing some money, and then they go, "Oh man, this isn't good."
There's a couple of Kickstarters I've seen that have just asked way too much money, that their goals were set way too high, and I thought, you're never going to reach that goal, and that sucks. But when you look back on it, what that person probably did was broke down all their expenses and said, wow, okay, not only do I need to eat and pay and keep my electricity on, but everyone I have working with me needs the same treatment. And this is going to take a lot more money than a regular Kickstarter is going to get, but it's the only way. So they set the goal that high. And it's kind of like, let's say you have a car you absolutely love, but you put it up for sale anyway because if you're like, if I can get this much money for it, I can buy a much better car. But I love my car and I don't want to sell it that bad. And then you wait and see if someone buys it. If no one buys it, no harm, no foul. So if no one supports your Kickstarter, there's no one to disappoint. Because with Kickstarter, you get your money back if it doesn't hit its goal. Great. Indiegogo is another story. But, it's hard to decide what's the right thing to do. Do you go back to your fans waiting for a game and say, I'm sorry, I made a huge miscalculation. I need some more. Whatever you guys can do, I still really want to get this game out to you. But if you guys can't help fund it anymore, then I'm going to have to stop. And maybe you put it out there before opening another Kickstarter. And if enough people say, yeah, I'll give you more money, let's do this, then start your Kickstarter back up. But if only a few people do and the rest are like, nah, screw you, you let us down, then you let them down. That's all you can do, move on.
Yeah. Well, I just think that if you're going to do a Kickstarter, do the pre-Kickstarter thing, and that is make sure you budget out what you need, right? Mm-hmm. Before you start your Kickstarter, like get all the stuff in line. Like call some of the people that you know that you want to be a part of the team to help you, and say, hey, if this Kickstarter goes through, this is how much we can give you, and that just leave it at that, and then have, even if you have to have contracts signed, whatever it takes, make sure you know what you're going to do and how much you need before you start it.
You used the example of opening a business a second ago, which I think is it leaves room for a very good metaphor here. When you start a business, let's say you're trying to run a restaurant, you get investors. And if you don't have the money to do it, but you have all the ideas and you have the perfect location picked out, you're like, oh my God, I need investors. those investors can be tapped for some more money if you need more. Like you get all your equipment, but then you realize, oh gosh,
But you also got to show them progress. Like you can't just
yeah,
have some guy get a Kickstarter going and don't have anything to show for it and say, you know what, I need more money.
yeah,
They have to actually at least put something out, or say, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what you guys kickstarted. You guys got the Kickstarter, so here's what we're doing and everything. And then somewhere down the line, a month down the line, you realize you're going to need more money. Then you can throw that out there.
yeah.
But I mean, if you just do a Kickstarter, you get the money, pass all out. You're saying we're working on the game, but nothing has.
No
There's no show,
screenshots, no
nothing, no
development
video,
log.
and then you come and ask for more money. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't even know what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So
And,
yeah, at least produce something.
I mean, and someone in chat saying it sounds like Repopulation, which is probably a different game. It had 2 Kickstarters and a crowdfund as well. So, I mean, that might be the right way to do it. Kickstarter, I don't think offers like when you invest in a game, you are and that game gets kickstarted. Technically, you are an investor. So
Right.
why can't the developer have a direct line to you and say, hey, you're one of my top investors. I've made a lot of progress. Here's what we're doing so far, but here's the problem. I'm kind of bleeding out a little bit. And Kickstarter does give them a direct line. Like I still get emails about Stonehearth. They trickle in, but I get them sometimes, and I'm always excited to see how the game's coming along. I did kickstart it, and it's been so slow. I forgot I kickstarted, to be honest with you. But that's just one way to do it. And why not tap your investors for more money? Because in any other real life situation, you can do that. You
Right.
can absolutely call one of your investors and be like, "Hey, man, remember me? Restaurant's coming along, but hit a little snafu. Someone died while building the place, and I need some more money."
Exactly.
So that was quite the derail from reviews, but I think it all plays a part, really.
It's
if
all
you're-
part of it. If the developer does his job, he's going to get good reviews, and then this way, you got sites like Joystick, who, that's their main focus is doing reviews. You make it a little bit easier for them to do a review on your game because you're doing all the right things. So I guess it all kind of relates,
Yeah.
and then that way they can, I think the reason why they got rid of their reviewing system was because of the fact that what you said is basically developer error, not updating their game in time, and how can they update their review, if things keep changing like that. And it does with an early access game. You're going to get changes, and you're going to get fixes and patches and things that are going to make things good again. So they need a way to be able to update their review. That's why they do what they do. So it is kind of related.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think overall my suggestion would be I think we should stop reviewing, at least with the big news sites, maybe not Steam, but we should stop reviewing early access games, because Joystick seemed to point that out as if that was like a big flaw in their system. If a game's not finished developing, don't review it.
It's funny because it wasn't like a big the early access thing it wasn't like huge, until recently. Now all of a sudden everybody's putting out their game early access. And so I mean, you got games on there that I swear I think teenagers are making it. Not to say that teenagers can't make a good game, but I mean what I mean is kids. Let's put it that way. Children making games, and they're putting it out there. And it's just they don't know anything about business. They don't know anything about they're just they're thinking like a kid,
Yeah.
and that's what some of these games look like. They actually look like somebody has a computer using basic language, and they're putting together a video game, and they're getting it out there because their mom doesn't pay them
Their allowance.
their allowance, anymore. So they need some extra money. So they thought they'd just throw together a stick figure game, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. If
They
you
just
go
threw
into Kickstarter, I think looking to make pure profit, that might be your first mistake. Kind of
Yeah,
moral
it's
of that
it's
story.
not for profit. It's just it's gonna replace, like, if everybody that's on your team has a full-time job and they're making money and they're paying their rent and everything else, and they want to put full-time effort into their game, then the Kickstarter will allow them to either take a vacation from their job, a long vacation, so they can work full-time on there, so that they can make some extra money or whatever, or for them to actually quit their job and work full-time in the business. That's what the money's for. It's not to make a profit. If that's what they're thinking on doing, it's not going to happen. I agree with you. There's a lot of games out there that are being kickstarted that are just way far above what's needed to complete.
But that's the thing. You're probably better off supporting those games because they've obviously done some budgeting. But Kickstarter's scary now. People are kind of scared of it because that same person, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that same person who has that $500,000 Kickstarter is just trying to make $500,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Once they get the 5,000, hey, thank you very much, and then they take off.
Yeah.
Or they put something out there that they made in high school.
I did it.
In their
Done.
computer class, they made this game in high school in their computer class, and they go, "There you go, I did it. Thank you very much."
Yeah. Real quick before we go here, I'm going to read a couple of chat messages. Fohamner says, I don't think the problem is unique to video games. Kickstarter board games have similar issues with non or lackluster completion. That I'm not a big tabletop gamer, but I can totally see how that would be a thing. And shit. Can you help me out with that name?
Ankti?
What?
Are you talking about the ANCHTI?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ankti.
You're just making up sounds now.
I bet you I'm right.
Did you see
It
what
can't
happened?
be Anchti. I mean, maybe it is Anchti.
I have no idea.
But
Did you
I'm
see
thinking
what
it's
happened to Kickstarter last year? The game is a homage to old horror movie, and now the movie is studio that's putting out Friday the 13th is trying to block their game. As a backer, it's really pissing me off. A big blockbuster company is trying to come after these indie companies. So I guess there's a game being made after a movie. They're trying to Kickstarter, and Hollywood's coming after them now.
Wow.
So what sucks is that they got to I said close enough. What sucks is that they got to get that far into the process to where people were actually paying money and backing it, and now there's this whole legal drama. And what's going to happen? The money that they earn from the Kickstarter is going to get lost in limbo, or it's going to go to Hollywood, and everyone gets screwed.
Yeah.
That is scary. That is some scary bullcrap right there. It shouldn't even get on Kickstarter in the first place. Kickstarter should have to review people and go, hey, did you get the proper permits to make whatever the hell you're making here? Do you have the right to do that?
What about there's another one besides Kickstarter. What's the
Indiegogo.
Indiegogo, they don't need to make all of it to get that money.
Yeah,
so
they get whatever comes in.
Whatever comes in, boom, that's it, So
it all comes down to trusting people and really be careful about who you trust. If you have I love the idea of going after a favorite YouTube commentator, someone who you've followed for a while and you've seen them do the right thing more than once, and you're like, okay, this person seems to be someone I can trust when it comes to a game review or a Kickstarter backing or whatever. And, I mean, even they could be wrong, but that's better than, like, blindly spending your money and going after what the internet has to offer these days, which is very muddled and kind of hard to sift through, as I've talked about extensively now with Steam and my feelings about their review system, which isn't flawed per se. I just think it could be improved in a few little ways to just try to stop letting it be all muddied up. I totally get that you can rate up and down reviews, but why comment on them? Now we're reviewing reviews.
Yeah. And then you're reviewing the reviews of the reviews of the reviews.
And then there's an argument breaks out in the comments. And not necessary. Totally not necessary. Just, did you like the game? Did you not like the game? Leave it at that.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Everything Noob podcast. We are here on twitch.tv/enoobs every Monday night from around 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern. And the show goes on iTunes and Stitcher and all the other places you can find us. sometime after we finish the broadcast, usually by Tuesday morning it's there. So be sure to check all those things out. Check out Dreadlow on hitbox.tv/DreadlowGaming. Check out myself. What?
Actually, they can just go to dreadlowgaming.com and find everything there.
There you go. And myself, I am Vortec Vids on YouTube and at Vortec Vids on Twitter. Gemini Gem is not here, is at Gemmy Games on Twitter, so be sure to follow her as well. And
yes,
we will see you next week.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Everything Noob podcast. Hit up everythingnoob.com for our show notes, blogs, YouTube and Twitch channels, previous episodes, and even a t-shirt store. Please game responsibly, and we'll see you next week.